All right. Hello, everyone. This is Rick or Rico from Puerto Rico. Welcome back to another episode of Visionary Living, the podcast. And this is the podcast where we feature guests and we talk about what it's like to live your life out of a vision. So being able to see the end result of what it is that you're trying to attain or create in your life, and actually living step by step out of that vision to create that. So here I have a very awesome friend of mine, Andrew Kahn. So if you'd like to, just please introduce yourself a little bit for everybody.
Super, Rico. Thank you so much. My name is Andrew Kahn, and I just turned 68 years young. And I've been friends with Rico for a couple of years. We met at a transformational seminar years back. And who I am is a man who's been around for 68 years, and I've been in the transformational work for some time. And many, many years. And what I'm up to now is I created a company called Seize the Moment. It's called Create, Contribute, Complete. And it's a time management consulting business. And
Awesome. So today we're going to talk a little bit about time management and what it's like to live moment to moment, or very conscious of the brevity of time. So just give us a moment as we start our podcast. And we're back to our episode, Visionary Living. So thank you for joining me today, Andrew. It's been a pleasure anticipating your arrival, and I'm excited now to create some value for our viewers, our listeners. So my goal in this episode is really just to make sure that everything that we talk about comes back to visionary living and what it means to live your life out of your vision for what you want to create, as well as the topic of the day, which is living in the moment. So Andrew Kahn, if you could just get us started, what makes you passionate about seize the moment? What makes you passionate about living in the moment, moment to moment, being present, time management? Why is that important to you?
well, many, many years ago, my father had a very successful business, and I grew up in New York City, and I used to observe his actions. I used to observe what made him be a successful business person. And my father used to have a to-do list. He used to take out a yellow pad every day and create his day, what he needed to accomplish every day. And he used to write down 20, 30 things. And after each item, he'd cross it out with a pencil.
Mm-hmm.
And he did this for many, 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 many years. And I observed business people as I got older, and I didn't see anyone doing this. And it kept my father focused. And what I noticed as I was getting older, that my passion would create a structure of fulfillment for businesses and individuals, that they can have a non-stressful day, that they can do what they say they're going to do, keep their integrity, and have a life that they love.
So what did you find that was the power in having that notes, or those notes, that list almost? It sounds like a list, right?
Yeah,
Task list.
he created a list. What I noticed as I got older was, years ago they used to have someone come in in a business is, and they used to call them efficiency experts,
Okay.
to see what's missing in people's businesses, or see how they can become more effective. So what I observed is that these lists created freedom for my father.
Freedom. How so?
It created freedom for him, that every morning he would create this list, and he would go through them.
So it's almost like you don't even have to think about, like,
Yeah,
you spend a moment to think about what it is that you're going to do, all the tasks that you have to do, and then there's almost like a brainlessness to actually executing the
yeah.
list, right?
I saw he was incredibly focused with freedom. He didn't have to think about what's next.
Hmm.
You know, it became just a natural, normal process for him, that he became incredibly effective. And what I noticed was being in the moment, being in the moment. Here's the list.
Hmm.
Write it down,
Hmm.
and just execute it. And
Hmm.
and I was intrigued by that as a young man and growing up. And what I try to do is bring that to businesses and individuals, that they're at peace
Hmm.
every day. They just have to go out and execute. And it's okay if you don't finish something, you can always do it the next day. But I find that most businesses, most people who are effective, have a plan, and they work their plan.
So, what's interesting though is, what you're speaking into about having a plan, creating a list, task list, staying organized. I think that that has a lot to do with visionary living, in the sense of having a vision. What I hear in my interpretation of what you're saying is that that list of things to do, that goal oriented mindset. I mean, that's like visualizing your future, visualizing the end result that you want to accomplish, and then breaking them down into milestones to then accomplish.
Yeah, it's like a golfer, like golfers, successful golfers. Some of them have a technique. They close their eyes, and
Mhm.
they vision their shot. And it's the same thing. It's like, you close your eyes, and you see what you want to accomplish today.
What's interesting about that too is, there was this, I mean, you're catching me off guard, so I don't have the actual scientific experiment name or where you can find it. I'd have to do more research, and maybe I can add it into the comments below. But there was a scientific experiment that I read about or heard about a few years back, and what they did was they took a few different groups, right? So they have, your control group, and then they have the hypotheses group, and then they test against it. So they had these groups of people, and what they did was they showed them how to play something on the piano, like a short riff, how to play something on the piano. And they had, one group that already played piano. They had another group that never played piano before, and they had one group where they didn't actually teach them how to play it on the piano. They just showed them a video
Right.
of how to play it on the piano. And so, then I don't remember how the experiment was conducted. I think that they like had an extended period of time where people were away from the piano so as to refresh the brain chemistry. And then they brought them back, and what they found is that the group of people that only visualized it, and the group of people that actually played it and practiced it, had around the same success rate,
Mm,
success rate.
right.
So, like, let's say 80% of this group and 80% of this group were successful at executing the experiment. And so what they inferred from that was that the group of people that were able to simply visualize, the task that they were given, right? They still had the same success rate as the people who actually tackled the task physically. So what that shows is, like you were saying, like, there's an ability for our brain to almost anticipate, or like, it doesn't know the difference between the actual action and the thought process, or like envisioning of it.
Yeah,
Does that
yeah.
land for you?
It's like being in the zone.
Mhm.
It's like you've heard the term being in the zone.
Yeah.
Like athletes are being in the zone, and it's like being in the zone. Not even have to worry about, think about it. Just be in the moment,
Mhm.
seize the moment, create it, and complete it. It's like that.
Mhm.
And it's like being in the zone all the time.
Mhm.
It's like people think you can't be in the zone. you know
Yeah.
and the zone, why we're not in the zone, because it's thoughts we have from the past,
Uh-huh.
instead of being in the moment. So the more we can be in the moment, in business, in life, and anything. It's freedom and peace.
And you kind of spoke into the past a little bit, and I just kind of want to talk about, past, present, and future. Being in the moment. That like now that in the past, a lot of people when they get stuck in the past, it's a lot of memory regret is usually the thing that they're holding on to, or maybe like loss, holding on to something that you don't want to let go of. And so when we get stuck in the past, it can a lot of times lead to depression. And when we focus too much on the future, where it's great to be goal oriented and to have a vision and a focus for what you're up to moving forward, but if we get lost in the future in terms of worry, then that usually a lot of times causes anxiety. So if we get stuck in the past, it's a lot about depression, and in the future, it's a lot about anxiety. So to really stay in the moment of like what's happening right here in front of us in this moment to moment, and the kind of power that we can have from that space. Do you have a story of maybe that you can kind of talk about when you felt like you were in the moment, um, in the very present moment? You weren't lost in the past, you weren't lost in the future, and it really, or maybe you were on your way somewhere and something happened that took you off course, and you had to really get present to the moment in order to overcome that obstacle.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them, Rico. That you know what keeps us away from being in the moment is like something's wrong from the past.
Uh huh.
I'm talking to you right now, and it's like I have no clue what I'm going to say. It just I'm in the moment with you, just communicating, and that's being in the present. And then I can be quiet for a second, and like think now what I'm going to say next, and that takes me out of the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So, but what getting back to your question, for me, that being in the zone and the moment is. I used to be a great bowler, and when I was younger, I bowled a 300 game. I bowled the perfect game,
Oh wow.
and after that, every time I went bowling, it was downhill.
Oh yeah.
I, I,
I mean, yeah, of course, it's a perfect game.
it was downhill. Am I going to get bowl perfect? Always thinking about what I do wrong. What do I need to do? This? Do I need to do that?
Uh-huh.
And once you give that up, like it's like there's nothing wrong here. I
Mm-hmm.
might never bowl a 300 game again.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and there's many times when I was younger that my parents put me in a particular place,
Mm-hmm.
or they took me somewhere I totally didn't want to be,
Mm-hmm.
and we're physically there. We have a tendency, all of we, I'm here,
Uh-huh.
but physically I'm here, but
Mentally.
mentally
Right.
I don't want to be there. I checked out.
You know,
Get me out of here.
yeah, it's
You
funny. That's actually an awesome statement to kind of bring me to. So what you brought my mind to is I actually remember the moment that I surrendered to being in the state of presence, no matter where I was. I remember that I was, as my mom took me somewhere I didn't want to be, and I remember she explained like, you're going to be here no matter what. So
right.
do you want to spend the next 2 hours and be here miserable, or do you want to be here and be happy?
Well, that was great that she told you that.
Yeah.
My parents said, put me there. They didn't. They just, you got to be here for this long.
Yeah.
If my dad took me to a Yankee game or a ball game, I was present.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
They took me to my aunt's house to play with my cousin for a couple. I don't want to do that.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
like even like, so let's say we get stuck in traffic, like where, I'm on my way home and all of a sudden there's an accident on the highway and boom, there's an extra 30 minutes of traffic that I didn't anticipate. I'm going to be late to wherever I'm going, and I'm feeling now anxious in the car, and I'm like sitting jump up and down, up and down. And if I could, I'd be out with a hammer breaking people's cars because I'm so anxious about where I need to be, right? As opposed to being in the moment in that, like, okay, got it, stuck in traffic. Okay, now how can I create value in this moment?
Right. Well, you have a choice to be miserable,
Right.
or you can say to yourself, "Wow, I'm here by myself. I could put on the radio. I can listen to great tunes. I can do positive things.
Yeah.
And it's like, why do we beat ourselves up? It's so stupid. I'm in an accident. I'm going to sit here for half an hour, and I can say, oh, this and hell with this and it's just I can sit there and close my eyes and meditate for 10 minutes.
Yeah, right.
Unless they'll honk the horn and say get rolling. But that's the way most of our minds have been brought up,
Oh.
that there's always something wrong. you know? And
Yes.
what's wrong? Nothing. You can't change the thoughts that go through your head.
Hmm.
You just have to allow them to be, you know? And it's like, if you don't allow them to be, you're not present.
Uh-huh. So you saying that all right, so you can't control your thoughts. That's an interesting comment, you know. So like, where were you gonna go with that?
Yeah. So it's like, for instance, if you had a child who's first learning to drive a car, you're taking them out for driving lessons,
Right.
and they haven't driven a car before, right?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And they're driving, and all of a sudden they come to a stop sign, and they can't find the brake. They can't find the pedal on the brake.
Uh-huh.
What's going to happen? Two things are going to happen. She's going to go through the stop sign, or she's going to find the brake.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so and that particular time, was she in the moment, or she was looking for the break? You know what I'm saying? It wasn't a natural thing being in the
Reaction.
moment. It wasn't a natural reaction.
Right.
So if you practice driving, you practice all this stuff, you become something that's not in the moment. It's just
Uh-huh.
a thought in the
It's a
future.
reaction.
So every time, probably the next stop sign that she went to,
Uh-huh.
she said, "Oh, I'm going to find a break before. I'm going to find
No,
that pedal."
it's interesting. It's almost like, human beings, we have that natural tendency to it's a quick learning. It's brain plasticity. Our brains communicate with our bodies, what, chemically, biochemically, electrically, um, and with the neurons, and what usually happens is, with the biochemically, that's the first reaction, and so that's a lot to do with our short-term memory. And so when we have the chemicals in place, it's easier and faster for, like, our neurons to fire through those synapses.
Yeah,
And then as we continue to practice those same patterns, then the electrical wiring will actually sear a new pathway in our brain, so we're physically now malting our brain.
right.
So they've actually found that taxi drivers and people who have to have spatial awareness, mapping spatial awareness, like when they die, they look at their brain, and they found that the area of the brain that controls spatial awareness is actually more developed in those people. So we can physically change our brains based on all the habits that we do on a daily or on a regular. So what are the habits that you practice on the daily, on the regular?
So what I do daily is I meditate 3 times a day. Um,
And
and
you had a special meditation, right? You want to
uh,
tell us a little bit about that?
yeah, I've been studying. It's called a Saya monk's bright path, and it's an ascension that keeps me in the moment, moment by moment by moment. And there's a technique that I use. I meditate 3 times a day,
Hmm.
and but besides that, there is a meditation that I do every day. It's called the pink light technique, and
Hmm.
it's universal. You can get it on YouTube, and it actually creates forgiveness, and it's a healing meditation. It's only like 5 minutes a day,
Hmm.
that um, a pink light comes over you, and you forgive the people that it's in the way of you having freedom and peace, or there's
Hmm.
someone out there that you have a problem with, that you want to clear up. And it's a technique that's been around for thousands of years, and it works, and it keeps me freed up. And I do that once a day, besides meditating 3 times a day.
You must have a lot
And
of people to forgive.
uh, no, it disappears. I don't have that many anymore. I used to have. I had a project one time that says it was called "Bring Them Back Alive." Like, I killed off all these people throughout my lifetime,
Yeah,
and over a 3 month period,
with a lot of pink light.
with 3 month period, I actually communicated to 100 people, and I shared, what was missing, and I apologized to them for killing them off, or making them wrong, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And what was so cool about that, it was one of the most powerful 3 months of my life.
Mhm.
And what was great about it is that people called me to apologize to me that I haven't heard through for years.
Yo, that's
Huh?
that's amazing right
Yeah,
there. It's
yeah.
almost like that. Therein lies the paradox. I was talking to someone about this paradox the other day, of like, what, when people say, "Oh, don't say something like that because you're gonna make it happen. You're gonna manifest it," and then other people have a perspective of like, "Oh, well, it was just a coincidence. Like, life threw it at me, and whether I wanted it or not, it was coming." the inevitable. And so there's this idea of this paradox that exists, or coexists rather. And the paradox is, do we generate or do we coincidentally receive all that happens in the universe to us in our lives? And I really want to firmly kind of press into what a paradox is, first of all. So we think, what are your thoughts? What is a paradox?
I really don't know the exact definition of paradox,
Uh-huh.
but it's like I don't think we have any control over any of this.
Uh-huh.
It's life is thrown at us, but it's like you've heard the word. I'm accountable for everything in my life,
Right.
and I'm responsible for everything in my life,
Right.
and whatever comes, it's like I'm accountable for this, you're accountable for that, but everything in my life, I'm accountable whatever occurred for me.
Uh-huh.
So I don't know if it's it's like I think there's so many labels and scientific terminology, and it's like for me, I just want to be here now, be with you, and make a difference. And what the hell happens next?
Well, you know what? This
I don't know, man.
conversation might make the difference to people.
I have no clue.
So
it's like oh yeah,
yeah. So I pulled up paradox. Let's see what it says. A seemingly absurd or self-contradictory statement or proposition that, when investigated or explained, may prove to be well-founded or true. So it's an absurd statement that's contradictory, that
Right.
when you investigate it, it can be true.
Only if you say so.
Well, so what's interesting is when I talk about paradoxes with people, and I kind of go into this distinction of like, what came first, the chicken or the egg? That's a great simple paradox that I think a lot of people already know. It's fresh on people's minds. What came first, the chicken or the egg? Now, why is that a paradox? Do you understand why it's a paradox?
I really wouldn't have the answer to that.
All right. So the reason why it's a paradox is because in order for the egg to exist, there had to have been a chicken to lay the egg, right?
So it's before and after conversation.
Right, exactly.
Okay,
So
yeah.
what was first? The egg that created the chicken that then laid more eggs, or the chicken that laid the egg that then made more chickens to lay more eggs? But here's the paradox. The paradox is, without a chicken to lay the egg, then you wouldn't have had more chickens. But without the egg to hatch the chicken, then you wouldn't have had more chickens. So in both situations, both are true.
Okay.
So which one came first? They both need to have happened almost simultaneously. Does that kind of make sense?
I got no problem with that. If that works for you, it's okay with me. So it's like,
okay.
Who created.
Yeah,
huh?
Exactly. Right. Exactly. The story of creation is also in that paradox of how did that occur, right? But so what I'm trying to get at with this idea of a paradox is, in life, what occurs first? Our intention to manifest the result, or that it was already on its way to us and it was almost like a opportunity that then we leveraged?
I would say it was already on the way to us.
Okay.
I don't think we have control over it, and I don't think we see it till after it happens.
Okay.
If you understand what I'm saying,
I do.
Is that to get from point A to point B, we have to take some action, right?
Right.
Huh?
But so here's the interesting thing, though,
Right.
is to here's the counter thought on what you are stating as a truth, right? So you're saying the universe had it on.
I don't know if it's the truth, but I heard that before.
Right. So you heard that before, got it. So, but then the counterpart of that is, because I thought of it, because I like it came to me in a vision, then I attracted it to me. So it wasn't already on its way serendipitously. It's because I thought it or spoke it into existence that it then came into my space.
Yeah, well, every action, you heard this, every action has a reaction.
Right.
And I guess that if you believe that, that's great. But it's like, I'm talking now. I'm not thinking. I have no clue what's coming out of my mouth.
Right.
Zero amount. So where did that come from?
Exactly. Huh? So that's a great example. Huh? So when it comes to talking, when we formulate ideas and we communicate those ideas, is it that it's coming to us? Are the ideas coming to us, and then we're just saying, hey, these are the ideas that came to me? Or are we creating the ideas from ourselves and then expressing it.
See, I think we're creating when we're not speaking.
Hmm. What do you mean by that?
I mean,
Elaborate.
it's like, your internal dialogue. You can sit there and think, and let's say, I'm going to be quiet for a minute. I'm going to say, what am I going to say next to Rico? And now I can, and then I had that thought, but I'm expressing that, but I can say anything. It didn't, I think the thoughts come internally, and it's like every internal thought, if we just sit there with its thoughts and its thoughts and its thoughts,
Hmm, hmm.
but what determines us taking action?
Oh, that's a good question.
You
What do
know,
you think?
that's the action. It's like I'm going like this. I'm moving my hand. I'm not thinking about why I'm moving my hand. It's just an action I'm taking.
Right.
Where does that action come from? The action comes from the universe, spirituality. I have no clue. Huh? It's like when you're you're playing baseball.
Uh-huh.
Okay, you have a bat. The pitcher throws the ball at you, and you have like 2 seconds to align and hit the ball.
Uh-huh.
But you don't say
Reaction.
that to yourself. Do you practice? Why is some athletes, you know, incredible athlete versus somebody else? Why does someone hit 320 and another guy hit 310?
Hmm.
Who knows? But I feel your internal dialogue and your thoughts just happen.
Yeah.
They just happen.
Spontaneously.
It's like I
You,
know I
you,
know I can plan my day.
mhm.
I can do my to-do list and plan my day. And by the end of the day, that stuff may never occur.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a reaction to life. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, just to bring us back to moment, because, I hear you bringing a lot of, keep bringing it back to athletes, and
Yeah.
athletes, I think, usually live in the moment
It's
because they
it's an
have to.
example of being in the zone.
Yeah.
But why, there's no right or wrong in any of this
Mhm.
conversation. It's just thoughts that we have, and being in the moment just gives us the freedom. It's a freedom of peace and joy
Mhm.
and love, and there's nothing wrong. And I think at the end of the day, that's what we all want. And there's so much internal dialogue, and it keeps us away from having love, compassion, gratitude,
Mhm.
and all that stuff that we were born with. When we were infants and children in our mother's womb, it was peaceful. We
Mhm.
didn't know from this chaos.
Mhm.
And it's been, for me, just meditating 3 times a day. It's been a huge love and compassion for myself and the
Mhm.
people in my life, and it's been peaceful.
That's awesome. And I want to speak into, because you keep saying internal dialogue,
Yeah,
and
that's the thoughts that go through your head all the time.
yeah,
And it's
but
like you have to make your internal dialogue your friend.
yeah.
If you make it your enemy, you're having a rough day.
Well, what's interesting though is when you say dialogue, right?
Right.
We know what a monologue is,
Right.
right? What's a monologue?
Well, monologue when it's one.
One
Okay.
person.
Yeah, but it
It's a
could.
conversation between one
Yeah,
person,
and
right?
it's a conversation with your mind and your listening.
So then when we say dialogue, right,
Right.
we're inferring or we're implying that there's two in conversation, two, I guess, sources of dialogue, right? Of a log.
Yeah,
um,
which is another stupid statement. It's
mhm.
like, yeah, we have thoughts. Okay.
Well, what's interesting is in my workshop, one of the things that I talk about is transforming your internal chatter
Well, like chatter, I call it dialogue.
into dialogue.
Okay.
So I talk about transforming chatter into dialogue. And so what I talk about is how there's two primary thought systems that we operate out of regularly. And those two thought systems, for lack of better words, is love and fear. They're contradictory, they're diametrically opposed thought systems, and they produce opposite feelings also. And what I see a lot is that maybe we've collapsed both thought systems or both voices that we hear in our heads, and we've collapsed them together. So we think it's one voice talking, but now we're running in circles between should I not, should I not, should I not, right? And so when we actually get clear that there's two distinct thought systems that are operating, right, then we can actually dialogue. until that moment where we've uncollapsed them and made them distinct, we're actually in a state of chatter. And chatter is almost like being at war. And that war with each other causes that chaos, causes that difficulty to concentrate or focus, the inability to produce results. Right. So
No,
the internal dialogue, but once we get used to the fact that there's two, there's ego or fear, and then there's love or higher self, right?
yeah, we have a choice. You know, you have a choice moment by moment to be unhappy or happy.
Exactly. And in that moment, which voice are we listening to? Because what's interesting is, one theory that supports this conversation is that in each thought system, they actually produce certain feelings as well. And that the voice of love or the higher self produces feelings of positivity only all the time. And that the thought system of ego or fear produces negative feelings only all the time.
Yeah, that's that could be like a negative conversation you're having with yourself.
Hmm.
But what's the thing? What I when I meditate and what I do is that at that particular moment by moment by moment, it's okay if you're sad. It's okay if you're angry. It's okay if you're happy. It's okay if you're joyful. But it's that thought that keeps running through that it's okay. It doesn't matter what the thought is.
Hmm.
And we have a tendency to judge and evaluate the thoughts that run through us. And that keeps us from being present, and it keeps us from our true love and happiness.
Hmm. And it's interesting to piggyback off that. I'd almost say that the only thought system that judges would be ego, and that love doesn't even judge. And so, in that moment, when it's like we're trying to say, okay, well, let me not judge. Who is me?
Yeah,
Which thought system are you filtering me through?
well, we can have another conversation some other time.
Yeah, all right. All right.
On
Why
on
not
that
now?
on that one, but we're all one. We're all part of the universe,
Uh-huh.
and you know, God put us on the planet to share and be with each other and love and have compassion, and just people's thoughts keep that from happening.
Well, yeah, I think it's the thought system of ego that we've pledged
Well, I
allegiance
don't know if
to.
it's ego. You
Yeah.
have different titles than I do.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
that's
It's just
it's this
but the general conversation of it.
it's the same thing. It's like, I'm waking up this morning, and what thoughts am I what am I going to do this morning? Okay,
Hmm. Hmm.
it's like, you invited me to be here, so I woke up at 5:30, and I got here, and you took me out of my daily routine of when I walk at 6:30 every morning.
I took you out of it.
Say, but who's responsible? Say, you invite. That's a thought, right? See, that was a thought that you did it to me, right?
Yeah.
I had a total choice to be here. I
Uh-huh,
could have
uh-huh.
said no. I can't do it.
You reached out to me. You
Right,
kept texting me, call me.
right,
I want to be on your podcast.
right.
Here
So,
we are.
it's just these thoughts. Are they good? They're bad?
Uh-huh.
It's like all we got is being in the moment, loving
Yeah.
people, have compassion,
It doesn't have to be
and
good or bad. It can just be
no,
thoughts. And then what are we doing with those thoughts?
there are people in my life I haven't talked to. I've done crappy things.
Hmm.
I'm not. We're not perfect, but being in the moment now gives me a choice not to be like that.
Hey, I like that.
You
It
know.
gives me the opportunity to choose a different action now.
Yeah, I
You
can't
know.
fix it. I can't fix it. I
Hmm.
can just be with it, and
And to go back though to the conversation that I was just bringing up with the two thought systems,
mhm.
I think that is an actually powerful practice to being present and being in the moment. Is as I was explaining a little bit earlier, the two thought systems and this is just a theory, right? But just to talk about this theory a little bit and flesh it out a little bit, the theory talks into how if we're in the egoic thought system, we've got those negative feelings, and that we can only ever feel negative feelings in that thought system, and that in the thought system of love we've got these positive feelings, and that we can only ever feel positive in that thought system, and that we can't be in both at the same time. So we
Yeah,
can't feel love and hate
yeah.
at the
You can't
same
be in
time.
two thoughts at the same time.
Right.
It's impossible.
So with that said, then in any moment that you feel that your peace is disrupted,
Yeah, yes, and right.
it's about checking in.
Yeah. So what it is when this meditation that I'm involved in
Hmm.
is that we have certain techniques
Mhm.
that bring you back to the moment when you're wandering,
Got it.
when your thoughts are wandering, and it
Yeah.
takes you back to being
Present
here now.
and
Like,
choosing.
yeah, we're here in the room, and I'm seeing you on the monitor,
Yeah.
and I'm being totally present with you on the monitor. I'm not looking at you here because it'll take me away. But when I go away, I can come back.
Yeah, there you go. So yeah, so being present, I mean, I talk a lot about it at any moment. In fact, for all of the listeners today that are listening to this episode, I want you to notice today the next moment that you are brought into a state of chaos, frustration, anything that you would consider a negative emotion. So today, the next time that you find yourself feeling a negative emotion, having a negative experience, in that moment, I want you to pause and take a deep breath, and I want you to check in with the two, like, voices almost, or the two thought systems that you have in your head. And I want you to get clear on what each thought system is saying, because one is going to be kind of defensive, right, and how in attack mode, and then the other one's going to be just based out of love and peace.
Yeah, one can take you out, and one can bring you in.
Exactly. And I want you to notice in that moment, the next moment that you're feeling uneasy or negative for whatever reason, notice which thought system that you're in, and notice what the other thought system, or at least the thought system of love, has to say, to do, to think, to feel in that moment moving forward. And and so yeah, so with that said, did we go through your visionary living story? Did you tell your story about how you lived out of your vision and overcame any circumstances?
No, I'll share that.
Yeah, go ahead,
So,
please.
so I shared a little bit before. Many years ago, I shared with my father had a successful business, and he used to write things down, and he had this the to-do list, excuse me,
Right.
and for me, it was a tool that I thought made a difference in the world, and
Mm-hmm.
it was something that I observed for many years, and my vision um, was to bring that into the world as I got
So
older.
like a
Uh,
tool for organizing time.
yeah, it was like, for me, I haven't used an alarm clock in close to 40 years, and I've never missed an appointment. Uh,
Hey, there you
I'm
go.
up early, and I do certain things every day to have a life that I love. But my vision was, as I got older, I did a lot of different things. I did some transformational work. I worked for a company called Est in New York, and a Landmark, and a whole bunch of other
Mm-hmm.
transformational work that kept me in the present.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I always felt that my vision was to bring this to individuals and to businesses. So a bunch of years ago, I created a company called Seize the Moment, and it's a time management company, and it's called Create, Contribute, Complete. So that was a vision I had many years ago, and I didn't know it for up until a couple of years ago. It's like I wanted people to go to work and be peaceful and be in the zone. And
Mm-hmm.
what I do with our company is we create structures of fulfillment, and we create great ideas that how the company can strive creating the great ideas that they want to create for their company.
So it sounds like you have a passion, and I'm curious as to, like, why do you think this is important for the world? How do you think this idea could change the world?
Um, I don't know, Rico, if it's out to change the world.
Well, if you're
There's
passionate
some,
about it, you want to
yeah,
share it with the
yeah.
world, right?
There's so much chaos and non-agreement out there. If I can make a difference to a bunch of businesses and individuals, life will be a lot easier, simple. People can go home at the end of the day and be with their families and love each other. And
And I don't want you to minimize how that changes the world, though.
yeah, no, it's for
I
instance,
want you to see,
no,
though,
no, no,
how that
no, no,
changes the
no.
world.
I got it. Let's go out and create, a huge amount of finances, and we'll seize the moment and make it a global company that will give people peace and love at the end of the day.
So your goal then is to help create time management, and with that
Yeah,
organization of time, people
people
have more what?
people can spend more time with their families. You can work smart. You don't have to work a lot.
And you know
Yeah,
why I think that's so important is because in this day and age, I feel like we all feel like our time is fleeting.
yeah.
And
And
so
this is what I emphasize too, that time is your friend. Time is your friend.
hmm,
Time is on your side. And all we want to do is I don't have enough time for this. I don't have enough time to do this.
yeah, it's
I have
almost
too much time. And it's such a contradictory statement that if you work smart and you're organized and focused, instead of working, a 10-hour day, you can work a 5-hour day and spend the rest of your 5 hours enjoying something you'd like to do.
yeah, so that's
Huh?
that's that's powerful stuff that you're talking about. It's almost like reversing the idea that we have or the relationship that we have with time.
Yeah,
I find that a lot of people, like you said, it's a scarcity conversation with time. It's almost like time is limited. It's our most valuable resources and our most limited resource. So let's not give it up, you
yeah,
know. But like what you're speaking into is actually reversing that relationship and saying that time is on my side. How do I leverage it in my favor?
yeah. That's all we have is time. We're put on this planet a certain amount of time, and you might as well, make the most of it. It's like, especially nowadays with so much technology and so
Mhm.
forth, people don't talk to each other anymore.
Mhm.
They're you go into a restaurant, no families talking to each other.
Mhm.
And I one of my workshops I do for a one of the police departments in Broward County, and the first thing I do is when I go into a meeting, I put a basket, and they have to put their electronics, their phones in the basket
Mhm.
for an hour and 10 minutes. And at the beginning, they freak out.
Oh yeah,
Huh? They
everyone
freak
does.
out,
We're addicted to our phones.
yeah, it's like we don't talk to each other. But if you can create a structure of fulfillment that you can work 6 hours a day instead of 10 and go home and be with your family, or you have time to go to the gym, you have time to go fishing, you have time
Yeah, how do we
to
maximize our time?
yeah. And there are only
Utilize it.
there's 168 hours a week. That's all you got.
Mhm.
Can't have any more.
Yeah, we have the same amount
Huh?
of time as any other
Yeah,
person in the world.
you can't have any more. So
Every human being has the same amount of time in any given day. Now, how they utilize it and how they maximize it is what makes us different,
yeah,
unique, distinct. It's almost like how does the billionaire make $1 billion using the same amount of time that you have in a given day? If you're not a billionaire, maybe that's not your dream. Maybe your dream is more traveling. And why haven't you traveled if it is your dream and you haven't yet?
yeah.
You know?
It's like you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Look at the explosion we had here in Plantation where I live.
Yeah.
That was mind-boggling. I belonged to that gym,
Wow.
and it's scary.
Yeah.
So make the most of your time. Time is your friend, and most people, I'm late to work. Oh shit, I don't have much. Too much time.
Yeah.
It's terrible. So that's one of the things we create with our clients is making time your friend. You only have 168 hours in a week, and most people, if I ask them, like, how many hours in a week, 90% of the people don't even know that without looking on their
Yeah, of
on
course. You got to
on
calculate that. I don't
on,
think about that on every day. That's for
on the
sure.
phone.
Yeah.
So, how are we going to make the most? What are we going to benefit out of the time we have?
Right.
And it's like we can be miserable and crappy.
Right.
Why don't we choose to be present
I like
and
that.
pleasant?
And with that said, hopefully our viewers or our audience members have created some great value from our conversation. We're coming towards the end of our episode and our time together. So I just wanted to give this opportunity for you to shout out anything that you're up to, either as an entrepreneur, or as a human being in the world. Like if there's anything that you want to plug or that you think that our listeners should know about, or for you, then go ahead and take this opportunity
Yeah.
now.
Well, thanks. For me, as I said before, the name of my company is Seize the Moment, Create Complete, Contribute Complete. And it's a time management consultant company. And as I said, we create structures of fulfillment for individuals and businesses to really get that time is on your side, create great ideas, do the things you love, and make a difference for other people. And that's what I want to share with you. And it's only one way of contacting me, two ways of contacting me. My phone number is 954-552-9530, and my email is flkid49 @gmail. So that's what I do for a living.
Awesome.
And
And be careful, because once we hit 100,000 views, you might get a lot of phone calls.
yeah, phoning is fun. I'll create the time for that.
No pun intended.
Right. And
Awesome.
and that's what I do for a career,
Mhm.
and I love it, and then it's all about having fun and creating, and time is all we have. We might as well make the best of it.
Awesome.
And one other thing that I'm involved in, it's called Bright Path Ascension, and it's a meditation technique that I've been involved in, and it keeps me in the moment by moment. And it's a wonderful practice. It's from the Ashaya monks that have been around for thousands of years, and it keeps me at peace and love.
Awesome. And maybe we could put a link for that in our Facebook for people,
Yeah,
so that they can
there's
get more
there's a
information.
technique that we talked about. It's called the the pink
The pink light.
the pink light
Right.
technique, and it's a wonderful technique that Rico's going to put up, and you guys can practice it.
Yeah, I can't wait to try it myself.
Yeah.
You know, it definitely looks very interesting. So thank you, Andrew. I appreciate you big
Oh,
time for being, a
well,
participant on the podcast
it
and
was it
whatnot.
was it
So
was a gift to you, and a gift for me to you.
thank you, thank you. So just to plug a little bit of what I'm up to. So this past weekend we had an intro for my workshop called Successful Awareness, and I want to thank everyone who came out that day to create value. I definitely created a lot of value with you guys, and it's always fun to have these kind of conversations and see how we can land leadership distinctions and perspectives in these types of conversations that could change the world and change the planet based on shifting people, ideologies, and so forth. And then the actual workshop that's coming next is in a couple of weeks, 3 weeks, July 20th. And I hold them every month so that this podcast episode is evergreen. So if you're interested, just kind of look at Successful Awareness and see when the next date is for you. And so yeah, so that's my episodes. My workshop that I've got coming up. The next thing I wanted to plug is my ringtone as a laugh. So if it's on the iTunes store right now, coming to Android soon. But if you go on your iTunes store and you type in Rico's Laugh, you can actually download my laugh as a ringtone. You can use it as an alarm to wake up. I get a lot of Ricky Ricardo, Desi Arnaz. So it's pretty funny. I love it. And then last, I wanted to talk about Visionary Living, which is the podcast that you're listening to right now. And my goal is to have people come on and talk about moments in their life where they used a vision for what they wanted to create, for the results that they wanted in their lives, and they used that vision almost like a lighthouse, so that through the storm and through the tumultuous seas that is life, we still found our way to the end result that we wanted to create for ourselves, using a little tool called vision and manifestation. So other than that, I want to thank all of my viewers and all of my audience members for listening and participating with me. My podcast would have absolutely no value if you guys didn't listen and if you guys didn't create value from our conversation. So thank you, all of you guys. And I want to say thank you also. This podcast is dedicated to Brenda Rivera, who is my mom, passed away when I was 13. And every episode, I just want to plug that and dedicate that in her name. So to love, learning, and to life. I appreciate you guys again, and have a wonderful day today, guys.